All set. Here we go. Okay, so just a few words about what a public service announcement is. Not sure how much you know about them. I learned about it about 10 years ago, but they're kind of a throwback almost to the 1950s and 60s. Once upon a time, we lived in this society that was very civilized, and one of the things that they created was this idea of forcing all television stations to dedicate a certain number of hours every week to provide these messages to the general public for the public service. And you know, in spite of all the deregulation of the Reagan era and all kinds of things like that, the one thing for some reason that survived was this idea that they're still the TV stations are forced to do a certain amount of number of hours of airing these things. And the thing that's unique with a PSA is that if you go and make a documentary film about a big issue, which a lot of people seem to think that's the solution, oh, we just got to make a documentary that tells the world about this issue, but the only people that go and see your movie are the people that are already upset and concerned about your issue. That's what happened with the Al Gore movie. The polls show very clearly. Most of the people went and saw that were the people that are already on board with Al Gore. So the question is, how are you going to reach outside the normal demographic, outside the choir? That's what public service announcements allow you, which is that you can get these things on there. And I did one that was called the Ocean Symphony that had 20 comic actors, and Jack Black was the conductor of it. And we launched it in the fall of 2003, the same time when Jack Black's movie School for Rock opened at #1 at the box office. And just by having him as the star of this crazy commercial, over 350 stations around the country ended up airing it and scored over $10 million free airtime because everybody loved Jack Black, and they popped this thing in. And I think a lot of people said, we can't make any sense out of it, but it sure is funny. Jack Black, we love him, let's air it. So we ended up taking advantage of his likability as the medium to get our message out through there. And that's when it becomes competitive. You put together your PSA, and in our case, we hired a distributor. They packaged it. They sent it to 1,000 TV stations, and each of these TV stations usually has a PSA director whose job is to compile all these things that come floating in, and then usually like once a month they'll sit down, they'll watch them all in one day, and then they'll pick a few that they'll decide to air. But the neat thing is, once they start airing it, you've got the potential to reach different demographics. And so, you know, you could make something about a liberal cause, and if they like it and they air it, they could put it on during the NASCAR, finals or something like that. And all these rednecks, suddenly when it goes to commercials, like, what is this garbage they're showing us? Which is exactly what happened to us with this thing that I'll show you right now. So let's roll this. This is about marine protected areas. Are we ready to do that? Oh, yeah. Can we get on the monitors?
Oh yeah, turn those monitors on, would you please? Just hit the on button.
It's very dark. Here we go. That is not the PSA. So this is 1 minute long.
So what would you catch?
Hit the mother lode today.
You've got to be kidding. Do I even need the gauge? I haven't seen fish this big in years.
Okay, it's not this bad. But ocean fish today are not as big as they used to be. It's a problem, but there are proposed solutions, such as MPAs, underwater national parks. Do they work? To find out, visit shiftingbaselines.org. Before we end up like this.
You think of what I'm thinking?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So that was a PSA that we released in the fall of 2005. It was out there for about 2 or 3 months. Not much of anything happened. And then at Christmas time, on Christmas Eve, I got my big Christmas present, which was they started airing it in the Central California coast. And all these fishermen started calling up our office, screaming and yelling these horrible messages on our machine. Who paid for this thing? Who are the bastards behind it? Blah, blah, blah. And then I ended up getting in touch with a bunch of them and eventually went up with a film crew and sat 4 of them down, let them tell their side of this issue, how they felt they were being misunderstood by the environmental community, blah, blah, blah. So it was a very effective tool for communication simply by provoking them and generating their interest. But it worked because it ended up in front of them. And the classic moment of the whole thing when we sat these guys down to tell about it, this one guy who ran this charter fishing boat said, It was a Friday evening. He sat down with his kids to watch The Simpsons, and all of a sudden this thing comes on his TV set, and he said, my kids turn to me, and there's smoke billowing out of my ears, and they're all saying, Dad, what's wrong? And he was furious. You know, how dare somebody make fun of us that we're not managing our resource responsibly? So that was the ultimate coup in terms of crossing over the divide. The guy never would have gone to see a documentary film about overfishing, but that's how you message to them. So in terms of that one, just as kind of a prototype for you, the basic structure is that you can see the first part is like 20, 25 seconds of narrative telling a little story that draws you in, and then it hands you over to the narrator, comes in, delivers the serious message, and then comes back at the end for the little lighthearted tag of them posing for the picture. So this is sort of the standard stereotypical structure for TV commercials. You see it all the time. This is the thing that draws you in. Here's what it's about. And then they usually finish the little tag at the end. So you can keep that in mind in your discussions in terms of structuring, you know, what you would do for a PSA. And you get 10 minutes. And anything else we need to know?
Okay, we started throwing out a bunch of ideas, and we thought we were concentrating on the narrative. And then we realized that the heart of it is the message. And the message that we were coming up with is we wanted to encourage people to get some facts on climate change. So we open up with a medium scene, and there's a rabbit, a turtle, and a bird, and they're flying up to this family window. And as we cut inside to the interior, we've got Archie Bunker and Meathead exchanging positions. One of them's pro-climate change and says it's a fact, there's going to be volcanoes in New York by next year. And the other one is disparaging and saying, no, we've experienced 8 feet of snow in Minnesota every summer for centuries. So yeah, the climate changes, but there's nothing catastrophic. So we flash to the message, which is wildlife can't wait. Get your story straight. And it directs the audience to our climate change facts page. Then we come back to the interior, and aided by beverages, the statements that are being exchanged are even more hyperbolic. You know, the United States is going to sink because the sea level is going to rise 103 feet in 10 years. I read it on the news. I saw it on Fox News. So that's our PSA.
Okay, right, you can stay up here. Interesting. Okay. So, you know, you want the PSA to motivate people to want to go to your website. And this, I mean, it's a very cool scene you've got, which is the two sides arguing about the thing. But what it would look to me like, this is something promoting a website that presents both sides of the issue. That's kind of the vibe that I get from this, as opposed to something that would motivate people that just want to know more about the issue to go there and learn the facts, I guess. What do you think?
Well, I left out the alternate ending, and the tagline was that the two animals look at each other and say, let's try the next place.
That's cool.
It doesn't change the approach. I hear what you're saying, that it implies that we would present a balanced portrayal.
Yeah, that. First off, that's kind of the vibe that I get from it. But more importantly is that you, as I was saying earlier, film is not a very good informational medium. It's a great emotional medium. It's a great motivational medium. And so what could you do that would light a fire under people, making them want to go to your website to find out what it is that you have to present there? Because if all it is just two people arguing, that doesn't really compel me to want to go to the website.
Save the bunny, save the turtle, read the facts.
Well, that's, I mean, I hate to say it, but that's sort of one of the basic dynamics. You know, if you put something in jeopardy and you need to go to our website to save it. Anybody got any thoughts on this one?
I actually liked your logo there, not logo, but you know, the wildlife can't wait, get your story straight. I thought that's
Nice
catchy.
logo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it sort of didn't quite. After that, it didn't quite follow from that enough for me.
Yeah. And I love the scene of the wildlife looking in the window, watching the stupid humans. And that's really kind of the message of it, is that the wildlife are smarter than all the people inside are, and they're bummed out because they're at our discretion. Any other Yes.
I remember All in the Family and love the show.
Yeah.
But I think if we were to use that now, it may
Too much time. No, I thought about that as well.
Yeah.
But that said, any old father-son divide like that with the grouchy old man arguing with the progressive son would still work, and it could kind of get the feel of those two where it would resonate people that knew that show, and yet it would also stand on its own because that's really a kind of fundamental dynamic. That's why I really like that. That's kind of a cool thing. Earlier today, somebody was talking, when they were going through the 6 different groups, and they got to the skeptic, and, the letters AGW, anthropogenic global warming, and then somebody else told me that stands for angry gray-haired white men, who are the basic skeptics, and that was what that picture was an older white guy. And that would be perfect, having that guy arguing with the progressive son who wants to save the planet, yada, yada. That one scene is very compelling and interesting. I just wonder if there's something more to be had in that. And in fact, this is part of the story with all this storytelling stuff, is that the more you do it, the more you readjust your allocation of time, energy, and resources to the front end. So in the beginning, when you start making films, you get an idea, you run out and you go shoot the film, and it's a piece of garbage. And then the more you make it, the more you start to say, wait a second, last time we did this, we ran out so quickly, it was a piece of garbage. Let's spend some time developing the story, working on it. Let's get a story that is so good that we can walk up to people on the street and tell them, did you ever hear the story about this, that, and the other thing? And it works instantly. And when you find that thing, then you're ready to go. And that's part of the frustration. And I feel like your scene there of the father and the son arguing has got a lot of potential. Intuitively, I feel like there's something there, but it's not, here yet, basically.
Well, the group had 3 different possible scenarios. They're looking in the window of Best Buy, and there's a Fox TV set of talking heads, or they were looking in at a family having dinner. And each of those carries a certain baggage and stereotype that we're trying to take advantage of. Phyllis, you had a hand up.
Yeah. I was just wondering if you couldn't, Meathead is arguing from the PBS or the radio.
NPR. Right.
Viewpoint.
Yeah.
And then Archer would be arguing from the Fox News.
Right.
To make those two dynamics a little clearer.
Yeah.
But again, we're still saying we're the middle. We're not really. We're saying global warming is real.
Yeah.
It's just get your story straight, and to me that means find out the facts. And if facts support
Right.
one side or the other, that's...
Okay, we got to move on to the next group. You had one comment?
Just real quick, I think we had mixed messages and we had it focused on our audience or what we were aiming for. We kind of had 2 different things going. But if we had been aiming for, my concern was if everybody waits to get into gear until, I told you it was real, it's too late for the wildlife. So there's also that concept of which message, which audience, what do you want to motivate?
Right. Well, and that's the key word to come back to. And I think you almost want to work backwards. So, our goal is to get people to go to this website. So how are we going to motivate people to want to go to the website? And that's where that's the whole secret of coming down out of your head, reaching down these lower organs and trying to use emotion or sex appeal or humor or something like that. It's something that reaches inside of people that will actually make them go to their computer, sit down and type in the URL, which is very difficult to make happen. So I feel like you're on the right track towards something, but needs more development time. So good enough for now. That's great. Next group. Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
You gave them a whole 4 minutes.
What's that? Them?
You gave them a whole 4 minutes.
4 extra minutes?
No, 4 whole minutes. To develop it.
Oh, to develop, right, exactly. Yeah, I think we ran.
10 minutes.
Yeah, we ran past their 7 minutes, so we get them extra.
And we'll have the countdown clock right here so you can see where 7 minutes starts.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And then make sure you use the handheld mic and keep it about 6 inches, like right up the body here somewhere. And then when we're done, when we have the discussion, if you pass that around, we'll get your audio on that as well.
Is there a 4th person in your group?
No.
Oh, just 3. Oh, no. Okay, great. Okay. Go for it.
Okay, so we wanted to do...
You have a title? No title.
Sea turtles.
Sea turtles.
We wanted to provide a message about the impacts of... Yeah. Yeah, that's the title. I'm a boy.
I'm a boy. Can we start the clock?
Start
Okay, go.
Okay, so we wanted to provide a message about the climate impacts on sea turtles. And so what we wanted to do is start off with a scene. We're in a house, and there's about 25, 6, 7-year-old girls and one boy. And all of these girls are just picking on the boy. They're dressing him up in makeup, just antagonizing him. You're a mother from off the screen, yell, "Girls, are you leaving your brother alone?" And then all the children yell back, "Yes." And then the mother yells back from off camera, "All right, go play outside." And then it slowly pans out, fades into some pictures of sea turtles that we've somehow made them appear, like 1 or 2 of them appear male, all the rest appearing female. And we've got the song, The Who's "I'm a Boy" playing in the background. That shows for a few seconds, then it fades to black. And we have an announcer that comes on and says, as temperatures rise, fewer and fewer male sea turtles will be hatched, threatening their existence. And then that'll show, it'll pop up with a URL for climate change website, and then fade out, and then finally we'll have the boy sitting there completely dressed up in makeup, just sitting in a chair looking dejected and just wondering what's going on.
Okay, first off, your opening moment is brilliant and perfect and wonderful and powerful. This little scene of all these girls and the one boy, and they're harassing the hell out of him, and then the parent says, "Are you leaving him alone?" They all say yes. If you could pull that off, that could be so funny. And it's the arouse and fulfill thing. You've hit that moment where your entire audience is like, "What the hell is this about?" And that's really what these TV commercials are about mostly. You get that first few moments. We're going to give you 10 seconds to either make it or break it. And if you make it and you've got our interest, then we're going to give you the rest of the minute to make your case for whatever in the world it is. Although the more organically you can move from there and logically and segue into whatever it is. So for me and my adult brain, your first moment worked wonderfully, and I could totally see that, and that'd be hilarious, and it's really original. I've never seen that in a little spot like that. But then the transition into sea turtles wasn't working for me. What is that transitioning, and how do we go from a house full of kids into sea turtles?
Yeah, we hadn't really developed that in our 6 minutes.
Minor technical challenge.
Yeah, we're looking for a little bit better of a transition there.
Oh,
we really
God.
just want to show.
You got to find something because the opening is so strong.
How about a nest of eggs?
A nest of eggs, and they're all pink except for one that's blue, or something like that.
Yes. Oh, cool. No, wait. Okay, now tell me visually how's this going to work? You're going to go from all the little girls saying yes, we're behaving, which is wonderful. We even cut back to the mother with a relieved look. Oh, good. And then where do we go from there? How do we get into this? Suddenly we jump into a turtle nest?
Yeah.
They could go outside and find a turtle.
Yeah, they could be running out to a beach.
And then there's a turtle on the beach burying eggs, and they're all pink except for the one blue one.
Yeah, and she's saying, "Leave your brother alone."
And then wait, where does it go from there? What's the message of the whole thing?
And then it fades to black with some text up off a website and says, as global temperatures rise, fewer and fewer male sea turtles will be hatched, threatening their existence.
Okay, that's a little bit of an educational challenge there, because we have to introduce somehow the idea that gender is temperature sensitive in sea turtles. Interesting. So you've got a challenge of a few pieces of information there. And it's a little odd that we're going to have this suburban scene of a bunch of little kids and their mother and everything like that, and somehow they're going to run out onto the beach with the turtles. That doesn't... Yeah. Okay, all right. So that's...
Maybe they're playing on the beach. Maybe they're playing on the beach, so you're already on the beach.
Yeah, no, except that I really like this scene of the mother in the other room, and yeah, that really works so well. That's such a familiar...
Maybe she's just down the beach under an umbrella reading her novel, and she just sort of, without even looking up, she says, "Are you leaving your..."
It works so well in the house. It's just that's just a stereotypical moment that just...
Perhaps the mother could be outside, reading,
in the backyard.
Yeah, in the backyard or by the by the beach. It's a beach house.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd have the turtle, out there laying its eggs or something along those lines.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's all those scenarios that are kind of stretching.
That's exactly the problem, is that all those things are kind of stretching it. And unfortunately, as much as I love that opening moment, you maybe need to save that for some other PSA, because really what this PSA is about the temperature dependence of gender in turtles. That's a huge piece of information, and you almost need to start with that as your piece of information, somehow getting across. You almost need to build a scene around that, which is, somehow, a bunch of kids in a sauna or something all changing gender or who knows what because of the temperature, something that, connects with that dynamic, because that's the core of what you're trying to get across, is that in the future, sex ratios will change.
Can you leave it to where the beach is eroding? And so that you may not even have beach for the turtles to nest because of sea level rise.
That's off on another message, exactly. But you got a nice message there, which is that in the future we're going to lose sea turtles because of the temperature dependence of sex. But yes.
How about the opening shot is a delivery room, and it's obvious that the woman's in labor, and the doctor says, "You're lucky. It's a girl. It's a girl." Or it's a boy, it's a boy. Oh, I'm sorry. 2-degree temperature rise. It's a girl.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm pushing towards. Exactly, which is you need to start with this piece of information, which is that sex determination is temperature dependent in this creature, and then connecting with humans is a good way to get us in there to what the dynamic is.
There's something behind the curtain that they're talking to.
Yeah.
And we find out it isn't a woman, it's a sea turtle.
Oh, God. Oh, I thought you were talking about it. So this is a turtle maternity ward.
We don't know that when we come into the scene.
Yes, but that's the big reveal. Oh, there you go.
It's a boy. Keep the temperature down. Give me the air conditioning. I need ice packs.
Oh.
2-degree temperature change, doctor. I'm sorry, it's a girl.
That's awesome. That totally works.
It's a girl.
Yes.
It's a girl.
Right. It's a girl. Exactly. Does that work for you?
I like that.
That's really nice. Excellent. I mean, that's the whole idea of story development, and that's where it is a collaborative thing, is that you just start pushing these ideas and then slowly you move in a direction that works. So, yeah, that's got the potential to work. So, okay, that's time is out, so ready for the next one. But that was great, yeah. And, another few hours of working on that, you'd probably have it something that you could be ready to shoot. Cool. Number 3.
Hey, we have props.
Props to you.
All right.
Nice.
Okay, so the point of our
The title is?
The title is Healthy Forest. So the point of our PSA is to try to encourage folks to take better care of the forest in light of climate change and other issues. So here we are. We have the cameras panned right down in here. and it starts out. So what do bears really do in the woods? And you stand back and you see the 2 bears, and it's a boy bear and a girl bear, and behind them is a devastated landscape. And the 2 bears are kind of holding hands and kind of looking for somewhere to go, and there's no privacy because the forest is destroyed, and they're sad. So then you cut to some information which says, our forests are being destroyed at an unprecedented rate, and you can do things to help. So please go to www.healthyforest.com, and then you kind of scan back again, and have found some place to be, and they're happy, and the tagline is, love the forest so there can be love in the forest.
Nice. Okay. Great.
The other tagline, which I got to my other tagline was, only you can prevent bear extinction. But they didn't like that
one. Cool. Okay. So let's see. So the starting moment was the line, what do bears really do in the forest, right? So I really like that, because I think that's really funny. That's playing off, there's a bear poop in the woods or whatever, right? Yeah. So maybe the wording you still want to fiddle a little bit about, I don't know. And so then we pull back and we're seeing the 2 bears from behind, and then we're seeing there's no forest.
Right.
Right. And so, yeah, I think, that's kind of heading the right. You might almost say if we have no forest, we'll never know, or something like that. And then you're thinking that we go from there till we see the bears romping around somewhere? What?
Well, at the very end. So it's kind of the bears are kind of trying to find somewhere to go, and you can show different types of either just deforestation or burned forests, and just show that they're having a hard time just finding somewhere to exist.
Okay. Why did we start on the back side of the bears?
Because it's their butt.
Oh.
So it's kind of like.
Oh, jeez. Okay. That's pretty graphic. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. That is so graphic. I am offended. I had no idea I would come here and get this. So okay. Now, one basic principle. One of the basic things that you learn in filmmaking, slowly but surely, is you see that almost 90% of what filmmaking is about is eyes, whether it's humans or animals or anything like that. As soon as you take eyes away from the screen, the energy and everything is just drains out of a whole scene. So you're really kind of gambling that to begin with. And really, if you wanted to make that point, you're better off looking in the faces of the two bears.
Or looking at each other?
Well, having them looking at you with embarrassed expressions. I'm thinking of the Charmin commercial or something like that. But there's just so much more power of any expression coming off the bear's face than there is off the butts. And as a result, that's a hard message for people to read, I think. And one of the standard lines of filmmaking is that the eyes are the windows to the soul. And so, by the way, when you shoot films and things like that, the first thing they teach you in film school is all about how to get light into the eyes of the person that you're filming. And you start to learn this. You take people out into the light of day, and more often during the middle of the day, more often than not, the light's coming from above, and there's shadows cast down on your eyes here, and you end up with these little black spaces there that you don't even realize, and you're filming stuff. And so what a film crew will do is they'll come out there with all these white bounce cards, and they'll be taking that light and bouncing it back up to fill in the area there around your eyes. And so that's the core principle, is that the eyes are the windows to the soul. That's why you almost never let people wear dark glasses in any sort of important scene, things like that, because as soon as you glaze over the eyes, nothing's happening for the viewer. You're always looking into those eyes, and then you'll see, when you watch, some famous old movie, you'll see that when the romantic scene comes, the woman moves into the light, and the light fills her eyes. So that's part of the dynamic there. And, again, it's kind of cheesy to anthropomorphize animals, and yet it works for all the Super Bowl commercials, and you kind of work within these constraints. And so I think that you're on the right track with what do bears really do in the woods, but I think looking at their facial expressions of the bears is going to give us more to work with, and can be fun and funny, and they can kind of shrug. Yeah.
I see it as a cartoon or an animation.
Yeah.
You could have kids going in planting and having fun, and then the bears find forest, and then they run off into the good forest.
Yeah, we actually thought about animation, that it could be animated.
I think the animation, and I think you got a fun and funny entry point, which is what do bears really do in the woods, and then I think your basic premise is that if we lose the woods, we'll never know, basically, and so you want to kind of interweave that throughout the whole story that you're telling, and then it's protecting forests. So I think it's good. It's relatively simple. You're not trying to convey a ton of information. Just one little funny moment like there to catch people's interest. Anybody else got any other thoughts or comments?
Well, the cartoon, it's got to be cartoons, because do you know how hard it is to get an embarrassed look on a real bear?
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah, you're looking at two bears are staring at you. Yeah. Although, who knows with special effects. So, okay, cool. All right, next group.